My wife, Amelia, dressed up in a full-body Donald Duck costume to surprise her male secretary for his birthday. It was a grand gesture, one she orchestrated in secret, culminating in a candlelight dinner just for the two of them. She even stayed in character, presenting him with gifts while doing a silly voice. Later that night, the secretary, Leo, posted a picture to his social media. It was a close-up selfie of the two of them. The caption read, "You're my best Christmas gift." A few seconds after he posted it, Amelia changed her own profile picture to the same photo. All of our mutual friends assumed I would be furious, that I'd be calling her, demanding an explanation like I always did. But this time I didn't. I just quietly scrolled to the picture and clicked the like button. It was nearly midnight when Amelia finally came home. I was sitting on the living room couch, the screen of my phone illuminating my face as I stared at their picture. She was beaming in her bright red Donald Duck outfit, her smile wide and genuine. Meanwhile, the dark, telltale mark of a hickey on Leo's neck was impossible to ignore. The comment section was filled with our friends, all teasing her, saying things like, "Aren't you afraid Mark will get jealous?" By the time she walked through the door, she had already changed back into her usual work clothes, a sharp business suit. The faint, sweet smell of alcohol clung to her as she came up behind the couch, wrapping her arms around my shoulders. "Honey," she whispered playfully, "why didn't you make me any honey water tonight?" It was a routine of ours. Whenever she came home drunk from a work function, I would play the role of the dutiful husband, brewing a warm mug of honey water for her without a single complaint. Instead of getting up, I just tilted my phone screen towards her. "Care to explain this?" I asked, my voice flat. A brief flicker of panic crossed her features, but it was gone as quickly as it appeared, replaced by a look of practiced exasperation. "Mark, are you getting jealous again? Leo is just a poor kid from the countryside. He's never really celebrated a birthday before. As his boss, isn't it normal for me to get him a gift? Besides," she added, her tone softening manipulatively, "we've been married for years. Do you really have zero trust in me?" It was always the same excuse. Every single time she crossed a line with Leo, she would pull out that same defense, turning it around to make me the bad guy. The irony was suffocating. Just a few days prior, I had tried to invite her out to celebrate my own birthday. She had looked at me with complete indifference, her voice laced with disdain. A grown man celebrating a birthday? How childish. My excitement deflated instantly, and I quietly canceled the dinner reservations I had made. Seeing the silence that had fallen over me now, she leaned in, trying to kiss my cheek. "Don't overthink it, honey." She rarely initiated any physical affection, reserving it only for moments like this, when she had angered me and wanted a quick and easy way to fix it. As she leaned in, I looked down and saw that her lipstick was smudged, a messy blur around her lips that suggested more than just a friendly dinner had occurred. I flinched away from her, pushing her back gently as I stood up. "I'm tired. I'm going to sleep," I said, the words feeling foreign in my mouth. It was an excuse she used on me constantly. Hearing me use her own line of rejection seemed to shock her. Her face hardened. "Mark, haven't you had enough of this? Leo is my secretary. Helping him out during the holidays is just normal human decency," she continued, her voice rising. "And he's so resilient. Despite his background, he worked his way through school and got a good job. Can't you be a little less biased against him?" Her words were a cascade of praise for him and a thinly veiled criticism of me. In the past, this would have been my cue to argue, to defend myself. But after a long day, I just didn't have the energy. All right, I get it," I cut her off. "I'm not mad. Are you done?" The sharpness in my own voice surprised both of us. I had always spoken to her so gently. I softened my tone slightly. I'll sleep in the guest room. I have to be up early for work tomorrow. Without waiting for a response, I walked out of the room, leaving her standing there with a stunned look on her face. I tossed and turned all night, and as a result, I overslept the next morning. I rushed through my routine, grabbing my coat as I opened the bedroom door, only to find Amelia already sitting at the dining table. It was a surprise to see her up so early. "I have a meeting today," she said, then looked at the empty table. "Also, where's my breakfast?" Amelia's eating habits had always been erratic, and I worried about her health, so I had made it my responsibility to get up early every single day to prepare breakfast for her and make sure she ate. She rarely touched the meals I made. The heart-shaped eggs I once prepared for her became a running joke among her friends. "I didn't make your breakfast today," I said coldly. "You can eat at work." A frown creased her forehead. "Mark, are you still upset? Didn't I explain everything last night?" I glanced at my watch, eager to leave. "Yeah, I got it," I said dismissively, and walked out the door. At my design firm, I threw myself into my work. I had been assigned a major project, and it demanded my full attention. In the afternoon, my phone rang. It was Amelia. She told me she had learned some new recipes and wanted to cook dinner for me, asking me to come home early. I was taken aback. She had never cooked a single meal in all the years of our marriage. I was the one who handled all the housework. Worried about her nutrition, I had even called her mother to learn her favorite dishes. Cooking didn't come naturally to me, but for her, I had become a reasonably good chef over time. My hand still bore the faint scars from the cuts and burns I'd gotten while learning. I remembered one time I had gone to her office to deliver a meal I'd prepared. I accidentally left my coat behind, and when I went back to get it, I found Leo sitting at her desk, happily eating the lunch I had made for her. They weren't even embarrassed to be caught. Leo just smiled at me and said, "Mark, this dish is amazing, even better than last time." That's when the horrible realization dawned on me. Every meal I had ever brought her had gone straight to Leo. When I confronted her about it at home later that day, she was just impatient. "Leo has a sensitive stomach. He can't eat takeout all the time, and he's been working overtime with me. Why are you being so petty?" Then she had the audacity to add, "By the way, your braised pork is really good. Make more next time. Leo loves it." After that conversation, I rarely brought her meals anymore. Thinking it over now, a small, foolish sliver of hope remained in me, so I decided to accept her offer. I finished the tasks my boss had assigned me and left work early. When I opened the door to our apartment, however, the place was dark and silent. I flipped on the lights. The dining table was bare. There was no sign of Amelia. Suppressing a surge of anger, I pulled out my phone and called her. "Where are you?" I asked when she finally answered. "Leo's place got robbed right after he got home from work," she said, her voice rushed. "I couldn't just leave him alone, so I came to check on him. There are some leftovers in the fridge from the lunch Leo and I had at a restaurant. You can eat those if you're hungry." I remained silent for a long moment. She must have sensed my displeasure because she asked cautiously, "Mark, you understand, right?" I let out a short, bitter laugh. "Sure, go be with him." She sighed, relieved, and was about to say something else when I heard Leo's soft voice in the background. "Amelia, can you help me grab a towel?" Amelia quickly mumbled a few more words to me before hanging up the phone in a hurry. I stared at the blank screen, a memory surfacing unbidden. Early in our marriage, I had once asked her to grab a towel for me after a shower. She was sitting on the bed, just a few feet away, playing on her phone. After I called out to her a few times, she finally replied with immense irritation, "Why are you so lazy? Can't you get it yourself?" And now, here she was, abandoning her husband to help her secretary with a towel. I put my phone down, ignored their restaurant leftovers in the fridge, and quietly made myself a couple of simple dishes. By midnight, Amelia still hadn't returned. I didn't wait up for her. I just brushed my teeth and went to bed. I remembered all the other times we had fought, or when she had stayed out late, how I would toss and turn, unable to sleep a wink. I once joked with her about it, and she had said, "If you can't sleep, take sleeping pills. Telling me about it won't help, will it?" I thought I would have trouble sleeping again, but to my surprise, I slept soundly through the entire night, waking up feeling refreshed. The fact that she hadn't come home at all barely registered. It just felt calm. Not long ago, a well-known international company had taken notice of my design work. After learning about my experience, they had offered me a high-paying position as their chief designer. At the time, I had turned them down immediately because of Amelia. They had tried to persuade me, but I was firm. That morning at the office, however, they reached out to me again. This time, their sincerity was palpable, and I didn't hesitate. I accepted their offer on the spot. That night, sitting at home, I sent my updated resume and a meticulously organized portfolio to the company's HR email. As I shut down my computer, I felt a tremendous weight lift from my shoulders, replaced by a renewed sense of energy I hadn't felt in years. The very next morning, the first thing I did when I got to work was request a meeting with my boss to discuss my resignation. I explained my reasons and promised to see my current projects through to completion before I left. My boss was surprised and a little reluctant to see me go, but he said he understood and was happy for my new opportunity. Back at my desk, I began working on my tasks for the day. In the middle of my work, I received a call from Amelia. "Why didn't you reply to my texts?" she asked, her tone accusatory. "Are you at the office?" I paused my work and opened my messaging app to see she had texted me an hour ago, asking if I needed to work late. "Where else would I be if not at the office?" I replied. "I'm not like you, running your own company and never being home. I have my own work to do too." Amelia had grown up in a wealthy family. After we got married, she inherited her family's clothing business and had always looked down on my job, thinking it was beneath her. She rarely invited me to her company, conveniently forgetting that over the years I had stayed up countless nights sketching designs that had helped her business thrive. It was thanks to my designs that her company had launched one successful collection after another, growing from a small boutique into a large, profitable enterprise. Back then, she would say cheerfully, "Thank goodness I have you. You've been such a big help." But as the business grew, she began to instinctively downplay my contributions. My words hit their mark, irritating her. "Mark, can you not speak to me like that? I'm busy too, and I've been working at my company every day. Leo has been staying late with me. Just because you don't care about me anymore, do you have to pick a fight?" I felt a sense of helpless irony. I was only using the same dismissive tone she so often used with me. Why was she suddenly so upset? Besides, if I hadn't seen the pictures Leo constantly posted on his social media, showing him and Amelia having fun at restaurants and bars, I might have actually believed her fabricated stories about working late. "Did you just call to argue with me? I'm busy, so if that's all, I'll hang up now." Seeing that I was about to end the call, she quickly changed her tune. "Wait. Today is your 30th birthday. I've arranged a party for you as a way to make it up to you. I'll pick you up tonight." I was surprised. I glanced at the calendar on my desk and realized she was right. I usually don't make a big deal out of my birthday. Maybe just a quiet dinner with friends. Amelia had never paid any attention to it before, let alone thrown me a party. When I hesitated to answer, she grew impatient. "All right, it's settled then. I'll be waiting for you outside your office tonight at 6. After work, I grabbed my coat and headed downstairs. As soon as I exited the building, I saw Amelia's car parked at the curb. She was leaning against it, wearing a stunning black dress. A slight smile played on her lips, and for a moment I saw a hint of the tenderness in her eyes that I hadn't seen in a very long time. but as I walked closer, the smile on her face froze and hardened. "Is that what you normally wear? It's your birthday party, and there will be a lot of people there. Couldn't you have dressed up a little?" I glanced down at my t-shirt and ripped jeans. I didn't see a problem with it. Besides, she had given me no notice, so there was no time to go home and change. Ignoring her snide remark, I walked towards the front passenger seat. Just as my hand reached for the door handle, the window rolled down, revealing Leo's smiling face. Ever since he became her secretary, he had been more or less glued to her side, so his presence wasn't a surprise. He was dressed impeccably in a black suit and tie, his hair perfectly styled with gel. Compared to my casual look, I suddenly felt shabby. He smirked at me. "Mark, sorry about this, but I get a little car sick." I managed a faint smile and took the hint, opening the back door to sit behind them. I was used to it by now. Whenever I was in the car with them, Amelia would drive, and Leo would find some excuse to squeeze into the front seat, an arrangement she never seemed to mind. The entire ride to the restaurant was filled with their chatter and Amelia's laughter. It was a painful reminder of how things used to be. When I would try to share stories from my workday on our drives home, she would find me annoying. "Why are you so irritating? I've had a long day and now I have to listen to your nonsense," she would complain. After a while, I just gave up trying, and a permanent silence settled between us during our commutes. We arrived at the restaurant soon enough. Amelia and Leo walked side by side into the building, and I trailed behind them, noticing how their matching black outfits made them look more like a couple than a boss and her assistant. Inside the private room, some of our mutual friends were already there. I greeted them and took a seat. Halfway through the meal, Leo lifted his wine glass towards me. "Mark, happy birthday. Cheers to you." Before the glass could even reach his lips, Amelia nervously snatched it from his hand. "Leo, you're allergic to alcohol. Remember what the doctor said, don't even think a little sip is okay." Leo looked at her with an expression of such overt tenderness that it was hard to miss. Suddenly, I was reminded of a dinner we had last year. I have a severe seafood allergy, a fact Amelia knows very well. Yet, in front of everyone, she had insisted I eat some shrimp. She adored seafood and always dragged me to seafood restaurants or brought it home for me to cook. A couple of times, she'd packed shrimp porridge for my lunch, but had secretly removed the shrimp, not telling me it had been cooked in the broth. Seeing me break out in hives and itch uncontrollably, she would just laugh and call it desensitization practice. After ending up in the hospital twice, she grudgingly agreed to stop. Since then, I've always carried allergy medication in my bag, never knowing when she might decide to joke with me again. But today, watching her dote on Leo, I realized it was never carelessness. She just didn't care about me. I crossed my arms, amused by their little drama. Amelia's tone shifted as she turned to me, her voice filled with dissatisfaction. "Mark, don't give Leo a hard time. He's allergic to alcohol, so just drink it yourself." I replied calmly, "My stomach's a bit upset today. I'd rather not drink." The atmosphere at the table tensed, and Amelia looked deeply displeased. The awkward moment was broken when a server rolled in a large birthday cake. "All right, the cake's here. Mark, blow out the candles and make a wish," someone suggested, offering me an escape. As the cake was being served, Leo grinned at me. "Thanks to you, Mark, I finally get to try the cake from this place," he said, his voice a little wistful. "I grew up poor and never really had birthday cakes." Amelia looked at him with profound sympathy. "Don't worry, Leo. For your next birthday, I'll get you an even bigger cake." Someone at the table coughed pointedly, and they both snapped out of their intimate gaze. Amelia nonchalantly passed a slice of cake to me. I took it with a smirk, but didn't touch it. A moment later, Leo playfully smeared a bit of frosting on Amelia's face. Instead of getting angry, Amelia just laughed. "What are you doing?" she said, her voice light and playful. On my first birthday with her, I had pulled the same move, and she had reacted with absolute disgust. "It's so messy. Don't ruin my makeup," she had snapped, ignoring my apologies and leaving me feeling utterly embarrassed in front of everyone. I rarely ate cake after that. They laughed and enjoyed their cake while I quietly scrolled through my phone. Noticing my untouched slice, Amelia seemed annoyed. Leo, picking up on her mood, decided to taunt me. "Mark, why aren't you eating? Amelia drove for hours to get this cake. Did my unexpected presence put you off your appetite?" At this, Amelia's face fell completely. "Mark, what is your problem? I threw you this party, I got you a cake, and you're still not happy? And Leo is my secretary. It's normal for him to be with me. What are you even bothered about?" I set the plate of cake aside. "I'm not bothered. He can come if he wants. And I don't like cake. If you two enjoy it so much, you can have more." I stood up. "I've got work to do tomorrow. I'm going to head out." With that, I quietly left the party and took a cab home. A while later, Amelia came home, fuming. "Mark, are you out of your mind? What was that attitude? Do you enjoy embarrassing me in front of everyone?" I didn't respond to her accusations, simply walking past her to swap my shoes and head for the guest room. Seeing my silence, she angrily hurled her purse, hitting me squarely in the back. "Can't you be a bit more sensible, like Leo? Since you're so unhappy, let's just get a divorce. I'm really fed up with you." This wasn't the first time she had brought it up. Every time we fought, she would easily throw the word divorce out there, knowing it was my weak spot. She knew I loved her too much to leave her. Whenever she mentioned it, I would be the one to give in, to beg for her forgiveness. But now I just turned, looked at her calmly, and said, "Fine, let's get a divorce." The air in the room went still. You could have heard a pin drop. Amelia stared at me, a doubtful look on her face, not quite believing what she had heard. "What?" I said I agree to the divorce. With that, I walked to the study, retrieved the divorce papers I had prepared weeks ago, and tossed them on the coffee table in front of her. "I've already got the agreement ready. Just sign it," Amelia sneered. "I didn't expect this from you, Mark. Playing hard to get now, are you? Don't think that just because you said that, I'll forgive you." And with that, she grabbed her keys and stormed out, the sharp click of her heels echoing as she slammed the door behind her. She didn't come home that night, and for the first time in a long time, I slept peacefully. The following days, Amelia and I entered a cold war. I left for work early and came back late, and she often didn't come home at all. I was busy with my handover at work and coordinating my move to the overseas company, so I didn't reach out to her. She, on the other hand, couldn't help herself. She started sending me photos of her and Leo at fancy restaurants, or videos from clubs, clearly hoping to make me jealous. In the past, whenever we fought, she would leave, and I would frantically call everyone we knew, acting pathetic and pleading for her to come back. Not this time. I didn't reply to a single one of her messages. I just acted as if I hadn't seen them. Perhaps noticing that her tactics weren't working, she was there on the couch one morning when I came out of the guest room. Her eyes were red-rimmed as she stared at me. "I haven't been home for days." Is the company about to go under?" I asked casually. She closed her eyes in frustration. "No, the company's doing fine. And it hasn't just been one night, it's been several days. I'm your wife. Why don't you care when I don't come home? Why don't you call me? Why are you so indifferent all of a sudden?" Watching her get so worked up, I suddenly remembered our anniversary a few years back. I had told her days in advance to come home early. I had decorated the apartment and cooked a huge meal, but I waited for hours with no sign of her. Worried, I called her repeatedly, even calling her friends. She finally picked up, and I could hear the loud music of a bar and her friends laughing in the background. "Mark, can you give it a rest?" she had snapped. "We're adults. Don't you have your own things to do? Do you have to cling to me like a dog? Even in a marriage, we need personal space." Then she said, "Stop bothering me," and hung up. I chuckled softly at the memory. Even in a marriage, we need some personal space, right, Amelia? Hearing her own words thrown back at her, she opened her mouth to speak, but couldn't find anything to say. I ignored her hesitation, grabbed my jacket, and headed for the door. "I'm off to work. Oh, and make sure you get me those signed divorce papers." Interestingly, even though Amelia started coming home on time after that, she would change the subject whenever I brought up the divorce. Initially, I thought about following my lawyer's advice and just waiting her out, but I couldn't resist. I decided to take the papers directly to her office. I wasn't surprised when the receptionist stopped me, saying I didn't have an appointment. I figured not many people at her company had ever seen me, even though they knew she was married. Amelia had never encouraged me to visit. The few times I did bring her lunch, it was always a stealthy drop-off, and picking her up often meant waiting in some hidden corner of the parking garage. "Can you please call her and say her husband is here?" The receptionist looked surprised, and was about to say something when a familiar voice chimed in. "Oh, hey Mark, looking for Amelia?" "Sorry about that. Amelia rarely mentions you, so the front desk didn't recognize you." I looked up to see Leo standing there, with a knowing grin. "Amelia's in a meeting. I can take you to her office to wait. Next time, just let me know you're coming and I'll get you in." I tensed my fists to hold back my anger and walked quickly towards her office, leaving him behind. Once we were inside and alone, Leo dropped his friendly pretense. "Amelia doesn't want you here. Why did you come?" I scoffed. "And who are you? I don't need to report my actions to you. I'm her husband. It's only right that I'd be here." Leo's face darkened, but before he could retort, Amelia walked in. Seeing me, her eyes lit up for a brief moment. "Mark? Are you here to pick me up?" "No," I said flatly. "I'm here to drop off the divorce papers." My words made her expression fall. Pretending not to notice, I handed her the folder. "Also, the company owes a significant portion of its success to my design work. I've noted it in the property division agreement. If everything looks fine, please sign it today so we don't waste any more of each other's time." My words caught the attention of a few employees passing by her glass-walled office. Ignoring their curious glances, Amelia responded coldly, "Mark, what do you mean by this? You're not done making a fuss at home, so now you've come to my workplace." David, sensing the purpose of my visit, seemed pleased and reached out to take Amelia's hand. "Amelia, this must be a misunderstanding. Don't let it bother you." Amelia, however, snatched her hand away. "Didn't I tell you to call me Manager Lou at work?" Ignoring Leo's hurt expression, she focused back on me. "I think I've been perfectly clear," I said seriously. "If you don't sign and return the divorce papers, my lawyer will be filing them with the court." I turned and left without another word. That night, well past 10, Amelia still hadn't come home. Based on her usual schedule, she should have been back hours ago, but I didn't bother calling to check. In the middle of the night, my phone rang. It was one of Amelia's friends. "Mark, Amelia is really drunk. I'll send you the address. You need to come pick her up." "It's too late, and I'm busy. I have work in the morning," I replied. Sensing my tone was a bit harsh, I added, "Maybe you can get her a hotel room, or have Leo pick her up. Isn't he her assistant?" There was silence on the other end of the line. In the past, a call like this would have had me dropping everything and rushing to her side. Before I heard a response, the call was disconnected. I was about to put my phone down when the living room door opened. Oddly enough, Instead of a stumbling, drunk Amelia, a completely sober version of her walked in and sat down next to me on the couch where I was watching a game. She frowned, clearly unhappy. "Weren't you busy?" she asked. Without taking my eyes off the TV, I said, "Yeah, it's getting to the best part. Couldn't miss it." Seeing that she wasn't going to get any attention from me, she jumped up, slammed the door to our bedroom, and disappeared for the night. I thought she would start one of her signature silent treatments again, but surprisingly, over the next few days, she called me daily, asking if she should pick me up after work. I declined each time, telling her I was working late. One day she called and insisted I come home early, saying she wanted to cook for me. I hesitated, recalling her past flakiness, but she must have remembered too, because she urgently reassured me. "It's true this time, I promise." When I got home, I found that Amelia, who never cooked, had managed to make 2 bowls of noodles that looked like an absolute mess. She was eagerly waiting for me at the table. "Mark, I know your birthday was rough lately, so I made you long life noodles as an apology," she said, her eyes hopeful. "I learned how to make them just for today. Come and see if they taste good." After years of marriage, I had never even dreamed of Amelia cooking for me. In the past, I would have been thrilled beyond words, but now I felt nothing but a dull tinge of disdain. "What is this?" I asked. "Noodles," she replied. I stirred them briefly with my chopsticks, and then, with a dismissive wave of my hand, I pushed the bowl away from me, knocking it to the floor. "I wouldn't have known if you hadn't told me," I scoffed, looking at the heap on the ground. "It looks like someone's dog threw up in a bowl." For years, every single meal I had ever made for her was met with criticism. Never a single kind word, just constant nitpicking. Too greasy, too salty, too bland. Even dogs wouldn't eat your food. Seeming genuinely hurt by my cruel remarks, Amelia just stood there, shocked, amidst the mess on the floor. Ignoring her wounded expression, I said nothing more and went into the bathroom. The next day, while Amelia was out, I packed my things and moved out of the apartment. When she eventually discovered that I, along with all of my belongings, was gone, she called me endlessly. At first, I just ignored the calls. Then I blocked her number. Undeterred, Amelia started waiting for me outside my workplace. I managed to dodge her or ignore her every time. But finally, one evening, she caught me as I was leaving. She looked terrible, and her expression was pained. "Mark, why didn't you pick up my calls? Do you know how long I waited for you outside?" How long had I waited for her over the years? Hours, sometimes, just for a ride home. I once waited until midnight outside her office, only for her to text me that Leo had already taken her home. Annoyed at the memory, I frowned. "What do you want?" She bit her lip, her eyes welling up with tears. "Why did you move out without telling me?" Calmly, I replied, "We're divorcing. I don't have to tell you everything." I shook her hand off my arm and walked away. Our impending divorce was no longer a secret, and it began to draw some public attention, especially since it was widely known that I did design work for her company. Offers from other companies and private clients started pouring in, but I refused them all. A month later, the divorce was finalized. I wrapped up my work and prepared for my upcoming flight. Since my final design project had been a huge success, my boss invited me to an industry gala. I knew he intended to introduce me to some important people, and a bit of networking couldn't hurt, so I accepted. Although they weren't invited, somehow Amelia and Leo showed up at the event. Leo looked completely out of place, clearly uncomfortable in the high-end crowd. I was wearing a custom-tailored gray suit for the evening and felt sharp and confident. I noticed Amelia watching me, a clear hint of regret in her admiring gaze. I simply glanced her way before resuming my conversation with some industry leaders. Minutes later, I heard murmurs rippling through the crowd behind me. Turning around, I saw Amelia leaving the venue, her face a mask of embarrassment. David reached for her hand, but she shrugged him off so forcefully that he stumbled and landed awkwardly on the floor. Amelia didn't even look back as she walked out. I had never seen her so openly upset with him. Someone nearby scoffed. Their company wasn't on the guest list. I guess her assistant faked an invitation and got caught. I suddenly remembered the time Amelia went to meet an important client and brought Leo along, saying it was to give the new subordinate some exposure. He ended up saying the wrong thing and deeply offended the client. If I hadn't gone to apologize personally and promised to provide several free design drafts, her company might have lost that key account. I shook my head and laughed to myself. Knowing how proud Amelia was, it didn't matter whether she knew the invitation was fake or not. There was no way she would let Leo off the hook for this public humiliation. Sure enough, within a few days, word got out that Leo had been fired. He apparently started a big scene at the office, refusing to leave, but after all the pointing and gossiping from his former coworkers, security had to physically drag him out. A few days later, after taking care of some final matters, I was getting ready to board my flight abroad. As I was packing my last suitcase, there was a knock on my hotel room door. It was Amelia. When I opened the door, her face looked exhausted and pale. "Mark," she said, reaching out as if to grab my arm, but I instinctively stepped back. I gave her a cold smirk. "What's up?" Seeing how distant I was, Amelia's eyes began to water, filled with a profound sadness. "Mark, please don't leave," she pleaded. "I've already fired Leo. No one will bother us anymore. Can we please give each other another chance? Let's start over, okay?" Seeing her looking so pathetic, I couldn't help but chuckle. "Amelia, even without Leo, we can't restart. I lost all the love I had for you because of what you did. Let's just part on good terms, okay?" I raised my hand to shut the door. "Can I at least see you off tomorrow?" she asked desperately. "Whatever," I said, and closed the door. The next day I was sitting in the airport lounge, ready to board my flight, but Amelia never showed up. I wasn't too surprised. After all, we had nothing to do with each other anymore. I wasn't, however, expecting the phone call I received right before boarding was announced. "Hello? Is this Amelia's husband? I'm calling from the emergency room. Amelia was in a car accident, and she's in critical condition. She's been calling out for you. Can you come to the hospital?" A memory flashed through my mind. The time Amelia had purposefully given me seafood, and I broke out in hives, struggling to breathe. Amelia was nowhere to be found. I had managed to call her with my last bit of strength, only to have her hang up on me repeatedly. When she finally did pick up, I heard her cold voice say, "It's just an allergy. You're not dying. Take some medicine and you'll be fine." Before she hung up, I clearly heard Leo's voice and her laughter in the background. The caller on the other end of the line, probably because I hadn't responded, repeated, "Hello? Hello, are you there?" I smirked and said coldly into the phone, "We're divorced. You should call someone else." After hanging up, I turned off my phone and boarded my flight. I heard later that Amelia had survived the accident, but she had lost both of her legs and would have to spend the rest of her life in a wheelchair. By then, however, I was already living a new life overseas. It was busy, but it was fulfilling. My life was just beginning.